From the island, Sint Maarten. This is SXM Daily News for December 19th, 2025. The police force of Sint Maarten, KPSM, confirms the arrest of a suspect in connection with a deadly shooting that occurred on January 22nd, 2022, on Zozo Moran Drive in Cole Bay. The suspect, identified by the initials DMP, a French national, is believed to have been involved in the fatal shooting in which a male victim was shot and killed. Following the incident, the suspect fled Sint Maarten and remained outside the jurisdiction for several years. On December 18, 2025, officers of the police force of Sint Maarten arrested the suspect upon his arrival at the Princess Juliana International Airport, PJIA. The arrest was carried out without incident. The suspect is currently being held in custody, pending further investigation. The Major Crimes Team of KPSM has been actively pursuing this suspect internationally since the time of the incident, working closely with local, regional, and international law enforcement partners. This arrest represents a significant breakthrough in the ongoing investigation into this fatal shooting. The reporter paused to ask Minister Patrice Gums about waste management. In terms of allocation for incineration or a program to export or not, Minister, as a follow-up, just that garbage. How much extra garbage does the landfill receive during the peak season December to April? From the industry and the cruise ship at the same time, Minister, if I drive down this road going towards, I see some piles of car wrecks. When are we going to start removing those? If you can give us some additional information on this garbage that we're talking about, and then, what is the status of the stormwater pump? And do you consider that project to be delayed? And at the same time, where do I download the ministry's plan?
Okay, the first question regarding the garbage, indeed, if you go down to Swaliga Boulevard, there are a number of wrecks piling up. This is essentially from the person who operates sort of a diversion business where all scrap metal goes there. There is an ongoing discussion with the company for the idea of how they can be incorporated in the future of waste on Sint Maarten, noting that they do have to change their way and business of how they handle the current stockpiling of metal. Why? Because if you're looking at improving your waste sector, you also have to look at how you manage and also upkeep the area around. What's also important to recognize is, and what's happening currently is that, yes, there's a stockpile of scrap metal within their sort of long lease holding. Persons are also, when the place is closed or at the middle of the night, they're also just dumping material right on the landfill, right on the in front of the business. Very recently, somebody actually put a container on the side of the road, and it was not properly placed. And of course, everybody came and blamed Vromi. It wasn't Vromi put the container down there; it was a private person. So the reality is, we do recognize the challenge of what's happening across the road. We have already engaged in conversations with the business owner about potentially incorporating their work formally into the future of waste management, but also the need to actually improve and enhance how they operate the business. Because if you're going to have certain standards for waste, government themselves have to be engaged with persons who also have good standards of business. We are very thankful, of course, for what they've done over the years to take a lot of that waste out of the landfill and export. But I think it's always the room that we can have to grow and do it better as a people. The second question you asked was...
How much extra garbage?
Yes, actually. Yes, how much extra garbage? Quite a bit. I think if you look at the cruise ships, there is an international agreement which requires ports and harbors to basically take a certain amount of garbage as part of an international agreement. We have, of course, in discussion around the whole future of solid waste, had a conversation with the port about what initiatives and efforts they can do to curb the amount of garbage that comes to the landfill. the harbor does have a number of initiatives they're working on, which is basically themselves looking at partnerships to ship that waste back out and how they can reuse it as well. But currently, what there happens is that there's a number of waste products that do come off the cruise ships and they end up on the landfill. A large number of them we know we can use in the future in terms of diversion, but in our discussions now we're really focusing on how can we limit what actually comes off of that cruise ship and into our own landfill, given that we have limited space. But recognizing as well, we still have to honor the international agreements to handle waste if we want to have a major port in our country. And I think your last question was regarding the
stormwater
pumps. Yes, so the stormwater pumps, if you recall, the stormwater pumps we had received an additional 500,000 euros to make that possible. That contract has been awarded by a public tender to Windward Roads, and now what we're doing now is finalizing the supervision of the contract, which will be executed shortly to then execute the project itself. So the project has been delayed slightly by I think 3 to 6 months thus far, by the fact that the supervision tender did not go out as yet, but the water pumps the contract for that work itself has been put out in bid and won by Windward Roads.
The Minister of Finance, Marinka Gums, is pleased to announce several customer service improvements at the Receiver's Office, aimed at enhancing the overall experience for taxpayers. Since October 2023, the Receiver's Office has been operating from office spaces within the same building as the Postal Services, located directly across from the Government Administration Building. Upon assuming office in May 2024, the Minister of Finance identified the improvement of customer service at the Receiver's Office as a key priority, recognizing the importance of a comfortable, orderly, and efficient environment for both taxpayers and staff. As part of these efforts, seating has now been installed to ensure that visitors can wait comfortably while awaiting service. The Minister has emphasized that it is unacceptable for members of the public to have access to seating in other government buildings, such as the Census Office, while taxpayers visiting the Receiver's Office were previously required to stand. Providing dignified and respectful service to the public remains a fundamental principle of this initiative. In addition, a ticketing system will be implemented to allow for a more organized flow of customers and to reduce uncertainty regarding waiting times. These measures form part of a broader plan to strengthen service quality at the Receiver's Office, ensuring that taxpayers are treated with efficiency, fairness, and respect while accessing essential government services. Furthermore, the Minister of Finance is actively coordinating efforts to have the parking area cleared and better organized, including the relocation of towing company operations currently occupying the space, with the goal of providing sufficient and accessible parking for both staff and taxpayers visiting the office. Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labour, Richinelle Brugge, initiated a holiday nutrition pilot project aimed at supporting vulnerable groups while promoting healthy eating across the community. As part of the ministry's continued commitment to the Health in All Policies (High AP) approach formally adopted in 2025, the Ministry of VSA procured a container of fresh fruits and vegetables to provide direct nutritional support to those most in need. Through this initiative, approximately 1,000 bags of fresh fruits and vegetables were distributed to individuals and households in need, as well as to organizations, foundations, entities, and volunteers who cater to vulnerable groups across St. Martin.
SZV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SZV is cardless. Request your My SZV account today and enter the virtual office of SZV. Go to szv.sx and sign up now.
SZV, yeah, your social and health insurances.
The Port St. Martin Group, PSG, and Princess Juliana International Airport, PJIA, convened a high-level think tank session on Wednesday, December 17, 2025, aimed at strengthening collaboration between St. Martin's two primary gateways. The session, led by PSG Chief Executive Officer Alexander Gums and PJIA Chief Executive Officer Michael Cleaver, focused on identifying joint opportunities to enhance the island's long-term competitiveness, elevate the visitor experience, and maximize positive community impact. During the meeting, both organizations reaffirmed their commitment to operating as aligned partners, positioning the port and airport as a unified entry system and a powerful driver of national development. This collaborative approach reflects a shared vision of ensuring that St. Martin's gateway infrastructure evolves in a coordinated and forward-looking manner to support sustainable growth. Discussions resulted in agreement on 4 key areas of collaboration. The first is strategy alignment and long-term planning, with an emphasis on synchronizing future development plans to ensure complementarity. This includes aligning upcoming infrastructure concepts, coordinating design initiatives that influence passenger movement across the island, and taking future ventures such as homeporting into account. A shared strategic framework will help ensure that decisions made at either gateway support St. Martin's broader national vision. We have more on the Prime Minister, Dr. Luc Mercelina, speaking at the COM press briefing on Wednesday, December 17, 2025, on the national and regional security matters, and also important governance and institutional developments, and some key diplomatic engagements undertaken in the interest of St. Martin.
There was also a highlight during my presence in the Netherlands. In that time, during the formation, there is, as you know, a formation going on for the new government of the Netherlands. And I took the opportunity to have a one-on-one meeting with Mr. Rob Arnoldus Adrianus Jelten. And Mr. Jelten is, of course, the presumptive incoming Prime Minister of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, actually from the Netherlands. And I did that to make sure that they will really consider our concerns and priorities, especially of St. Martin, that we really are considered when they're busy with the formation of their government. For not last minute, they realize also that there is a St. Martin, Curaçao, and Aruba in the Kingdom of the Netherlands. This engagement represents a significant milestone in kingdom relations and reflects, I think, a proactive approach to safeguard the interest of the Caribbean part of the kingdom during a critical political transition in the Netherlands. While the discussion centered, of course, on St. Martin, I deliberately created space for Curaçao and Aruba, and also for Bonaire, Saba, and Statia, recognizing that small island communities share common realities, including economic resilience, climate vulnerability, energy security, equitable access to resources, and of course the challenges that we encounter as small island development states on the field of healthcare and education. I think personally that early engagement allows us to inform policy rather than react to it, and it is essential to achieving a balanced, respectful, and effective kingdom cooperation. I was encouraged by the openness, and I was very, very impressed by the openness of Mr. Yetten, that really is considering to invite the countries in the kingdom, being Curaçao, Aruba, and Sint Maarten, to a meeting in which we will be able to express our concerns and our vision in the beginning, before the start of the new government in the Netherlands. While I was there in the Netherlands, I also made use of that opportunity to sign an official partnership with the VNG, that stands for Vereniging Nederlandse Gemeenten. And in this case, it is VNGI, it's international. And in that case, during this same work visit, we signed the certificate of extraordinary membership with the VNG International, the international arm of the Association of the Dutch Municipalities. I was accompanied during the signing by Minister Plenipotentiary Mrs. Gracita Arendel, and also the Chief of Staff, Mr. Stuart Johnson, reaffirming, of course, our collective commitment to strengthen governance frameworks and unlocking new funding and cooperation opportunities for Sint Maarten. This partnership with the VNGI, of course, enables access to technical expertise, institutional support, capacity building, long-term cooperation focused on mental health service, training of medical professionals, human resources development in the civil servants sector, preparation for the opening of our new hospital, and transition towards greener and more sustainable energy.
News from The Hague. Newly appointed CDA Member of Parliament Tjs van den Brink has called for greater responsibility, continuity, and stronger cooperation within the Kingdom of the Netherlands during the parliamentary debate on the Kingdom Relations Budget and the BES Fund. Addressing the House as a newcomer to the Kingdom Relations portfolio, Van den Brink said he approached the debate with humility and respect for the history and expertise already present in Parliament. He stressed that the Caribbean parts of the Kingdom require careful policy making and long-term commitment, adding that he intends to contribute with a fresh perspective rooted in dialogue, clarity, and a strong sense of shared responsibility.
Your social and health insurance is Your social and health insurance.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to SZV.SX and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social and health insurances.
Member of Parliament speak out on the Initiative National Ordinance amending on admission and expulsion from St Martin, presented by MP Omar Otley in the House of Parliament.
People of St. Martin. This is a very great initiative law. My party leader, MP Christophe Emmanuel, did present such of a law at the end, basically, of my tenure. Where it fall out in government, I really do not know. However, it is very important. Some of us in here, yes, were born on the Dutch part of St. Martin to a Dutch-born St. Martiner, but I too could have fell into that same situation if my dad, who's a naturalized Dutchman, born on the island of Nevis, if he did not had his Dutch passport, I would have not born Dutch and would have gone through the same process of getting papers, etc. So happily, I did not go through that process, but I'm the first Dutch-born Antillean in my family, as my mother's from the French side, and as I just mentioned, my dad is from Nevis. However, the situation continues because I also deal with a lot of immigration matters and had to deal with it moreover. When you see a lot of kids, like the MP mentioned, that were born here, I've went to school with individuals today that are 38, 39 years old, never had legal residency on the island because of a loophole, or we fail as a country, we fail the individuals, because no child that born here, or even those that were migrated here, like you say, born to be here, migrated here as well as an infant or as an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, they didn't choose to migrate to St. Martin. So I think we also have to look deeper into it as well, even though we are talking from the ages of 10, but the humanitarian law indeed needs to be changed greatly, because again, we are also losing money. We are also losing revenue when it comes to the immigration part. We see the tax office does not look at it when individuals undocumented are filing their taxes. So the finance department is collecting off of these illegal immigrants. Also, you mentioned SZV also insure these individuals because their employers are paying their fair share for the individuals. So why not? This law can be ratified or amended, or an initiative can be included for inclusion of all the individuals that were born here, and also those that were born to be here. Because we are mentioning those, yes, MP, I understood, that were born here, but again, there are individuals that migrated here again. And if that is not in that initiative law, I think that needs to be changed if it's not there, for also those who migrated here. Also for those who are living here for X amount of years and paying their fair share of taxes, we need to acknowledge that. I always say the individuals that are here working illegal, and every month you see them at Western Union, MoneyGram, and those things, sending out the money. The money is not circulating here in my country. I have a problem with that. But those that are doing their fair share of contribution, I think we should acknowledge it and grant them residency in order for us to also fill our coffers. If we're saying we are a country that want to go into the direction of independence, we have to seek all avenues of generating income, and this is also a generating measure of making money in this country.
Before I even came into government, I had to deal with a lot of children that were undocumented. And I will be very specific. Everyone knew that when Miss Debbie had her ICANN Foundation in Dutch Quarter, Miss Debbie was the one that was actually on top of the paperwork of the orphans because they didn't have parents. Whether they had a parent here, for some reason, they were in an orphanage. So I refer to them as orphans. And what happened subsequently after Miss Debbie left is you had some persons that either aged out without their documents being transferred, or you had persons that didn't have anybody until they went on somewhere else to keep their paperwork going. And what happened in one scenario was one person who always had his papers up to date, but then became an adult after she passed away and then was left sort of idle, left with nothing, left without, how do you say it, legitimate or up-to-date paperwork. So that was when we had to go through the means of humanitarian, because this person had been on St. Martin his entire life, not of parents of the island, but existing legally through an orphanage. And it took years. It took about maybe 4 years, 5 years. The proof is that you had to show that the person has existed and been in the education system in order to go through a humanitarian route. So I really appreciate you bringing this forward because it's something that we have dealt with, and whether or not people like to admit it, when you have idle hands, they definitely do become the devil's work. So if you have no prospects to youth who are orphans, you know, they're going to go by any means necessary to put food in their belly. And I see where we're going with this, and I can see myself in some of it, but I do have some questions as to where the education portion of this falls. Because one of the things that I asked about the first time I experienced this, so I would say now it's over 10 years ago, was because we have a compulsory education system. So whether kids are illegal or not, they have to go through the school system. And when I started asking questions about, well, isn't there a way that through your school system you could figure out, you know, who the kids are without trying to attack the parents for their illegal status? Because most of the time, the children that end up going to school is because parents were here on a permit, on a work permit. So for whatever reason, it went astray. You know, they weren't renewed. Maybe they lost their job, but their kids continued existing in the system. So, and then, you know, when I asked about this, the minister at the time, it doesn't matter who it is, didn't want to touch it. This is an unpopular situation. But again, when you look at the reality of our makeup of, and I'm sticking specifically to students, when you look at the reality of what your classes are made up of in terms of their status, you as a government are contributing to idle hands becoming the devil's work. So that's the aspect that I took it from. When you have children that have no options to do anything in their future, and these actually, like 2 of them that I dealt with could have been amazing athletes, but they didn't have any prospects because of their status.